How's it going, everybody? It's SaltyTreecko, and about 2 weeks ago I published a video and I called it the worst GameRant article of all time, or something similar to that. And you might be noticing that this video is titled something similar, so you're probably like, Treecko, what the heck? You're just baiting at this point. You're exaggerating in the title. No, the thing is, this article, it says updated, but this isn't the original release date. This article got released the day after I published that last video. And this article is so unbelievably fundamentally stupid that it can't. I can't even find the words. It's so stupid. It's so bad. So, okay. On the last video, people kind of argued that even though that article was objectively terrible, it probably wasn't the single worst GameRant article. And this one, I think, fundamentally is the worst GameRant article, and I'm going to tell you why straight up. Because it tries to combine both, as it says, it tries to combine both PvE in-game and PvP, which means in one list, it's trying to rank every in-game use of every item, every singles use of every item, and every doubles use of every item. Which I don't think I have to mention why that's like a fundamental critical flaw for the article. That's like, one, it's apples to oranges. Two, how important the item is going to vary based on how important you think PvP or PvE is. So that's two fundamental flaws. And three, ranking them all in tandem requires like a very nuanced understanding and approach to the ranking and understanding of PvP, which GameRant simply does not have, and I will have plenty of examples proving this. But I hope that those three statements you'll keep in mind when I'm talking about why this article is so terrible. And obviously I'm a competitive player, so I'm not going to have too much insight on the PvE side of things, although I don't need to have much of a complex understanding to understand why this list is so fucking bad, even from a PvE standpoint. So if you're a casual fan, guess what? You're going to get mad at this list too. If you're a competitive fan, you're going to get mad at this list too. And this is a great article for me to talk about because I mostly cover singles, which means usually when I cover like any sort of competitive like article like this, people are like, Treecko, why isn't Incineroar the #1 Pokemon of all time? It's so good for doubles. It's like, yeah, I was talking about singles. But this one, it's perfect because it's terrible for both. So let's just get right into it. I've been yapping for long enough. Anyway, blah blah blah. Make sure to subscribe. I have like 3 other videos close to this, so if you like this one, you can always watch those ones. The 27th item they've listed is the booster energy, which should be a major red flag because booster energy in at least in singles, if not also in doubles, is one of the most used competitive items right now. So the fact that this is 27th should be a major red flag. And I'm not going to read everything here. I'm just going to quickly advance to the fact that Toxic Orb is number 26. I was going to say if you're a competitive fan, or if you're not a competitive fan and you're a casual fan, you might not fully understand this, but no, you should fully understand this. It's fucking Toxic Orb. It poisons you. So, the reason that they put Toxic Orb above Booster Energy is because of the Guts ability specifically, which is fucking stupid, because I don't understand why, because they directly say that Burn does less damage, which makes the Flame Orb better, but then they rank the Toxic Orb and not the Flame Orb? Like, Flame Orb isn't anywhere in this list, you can look. Which also, so there's one fundamental flaw. 2, the idea is that with things like Guts, I guess you could make the argument that Toxic Orb is better because also, like, Pokemon with Poison Heal can use it, aka basically just fucking Gliscor. But saying that having an item which can proc your ability, but then also poisons you, is better than just coming in and getting a major stat boost, is so stupid. It's so stupid. So we're number 27 to number 26 on a 27 long list, and we already have a just blatantly stupid idea. Also, if anyone was wondering, I went through and in Generation 8 I counted the number of Pokemon that Guts affects, fully evolved of course, is 7. So 7 fully evolved Pokemon can use the Toxic or Flame Orb to proc their ability. And Booster Energy, the number is 20. There are 20 Pokemon that take advantage of Booster Energy. So if you wanted any more reason why that's stupid, there's another one. Let's just mention that Booster Energy, like I've said, this is a great item. It's at 27. I want you to keep that in mind when I talk about some more competitive items, that Booster Energy is ranked at the dead last on the list. Air Balloon I'm not going to talk about too much because it's a fringe item. Custap Berry I'm not going to... Okay, well, it's saying Booster Energy is worse than Custap Berry, which, okay, that's an opinion you could have. And then Ability Shield is ranked above both of those? Both Air Balloon, Custap Berry, and... I'm gonna just ignore Toxicor because it's not a great item except for like 7 Pokemon. 8 Pokemon, Gliscor, and then above Booster Energy. Now, the thing is that I don't have too in-depth of an understanding of VGC, but at least to my knowledge, even in VGC, let's just say this, PvE, which this list is talking about, this is not a useful item. Singles, not a useful item. So, in the other ones, which could potentially be useful in both singles and PvE and doubles, we have an ability which could potentially only be useful in doubles, and even to my knowledge, this is not a very useful item in doubles. Like, it can be used, it has some, like, useful applications, but, like, to my knowledge, at least, if I'm wrong, someone please correct me in the comments, but what Pokemon uses Ability Shield? What Pokemon would rather use Ability Shield than another item? Like, the thing it says is, like, Pokemon like Grafaiai can use it. Like, who's using Grafaiai as, like, a sweeper with Ability Shield? Like, it's basically saying, oh, there's, like, one Pokemon with a gimmick that could use it, so it's better than all the other ones. Why would you think that? I don't get it. I don't understand. Let's move on to the Focus Sash. Now, Focus Sash is actually a mediocre item. I was going to say it's a pretty good item. It's mediocre. It's a good item in doubles. It could be... it's an okay item in doubles. It's an okay item in singles. It's probably better in doubles than in singles because entry hazards are less prevalent. And you'd probably rather be using other items in casual play as well. So this is just fundamentally not a great item, which once again, it's an item that isn't very useful or isn't great in all the other ones, and it's 22 on the list. It's above 5 other ones, so that's interesting. And now we have Bright Powder, so fuck all logic, throw it out the window, fuck everything, thinking, fuck brain usage, fuck singles, fuck doubles, fuck casual play. We got Bright Powder. Okay. We got Bright Powder. The way this is phrased also pisses me off because it says, this next held item is a deceptive one because at first glance it doesn't seem like much. The reason why it doesn't seem like much is because it's not much. Bright Powder is a fucking bad item. This is an item that you would never... The only Pokemon you would ever want to use this on is Ditto, and even then it's like, probably like, the 3rd or 4th item that Ditto would want to use. So this is fundamentally a terrible item. And the reason that this pisses me off so much is the author of this article, like, tries to have, like, a fucking big brain, like, brain expansion moment, like, to the naked eye, this may seem like a bad item, but if you use it properly, like an intellectual like myself, like, no, this is bad. If you're an intellectual, you would understand that having an item that gives you a 1 in 10 chance to evade... Oh, here's the thing. The thing that GameRant doesn't understand with this is that, sure, this gives you some advantage, and evasion in Pokemon is very stupid, but it's a very small evasion boost. It's a 1 in 10 chance, additionally, for your opponent to dodge an attack, which means that 100% accurate moves are still hitting you with 90% accuracy, Would you like to have 100% accuracy? No, but if an opponent has Bright Powder, it means they aren't holding a better held item. That is the one reason Bright Powder is so fucking bad, is that it gives you a very, very, very slight potential advantage. There is potential that this item does absolutely fucking nothing. And like a 9 out of 10 chance that it does fucking nothing every attack. Jesus Christ, this list makes me so mad. Okay, weakness policy. I'm not going to talk about weakness policy. This is a gimmick item. It's an item that, like it says, it's high risk, high reward, but you would, for the most part, just rather hold like any other item. There are some Pokemon that use it well, like Pokemon that have like Solid Rock, like Rhyperior. It's just niche. It's just not a very good item. And here's where, if you play the game casually, you should get really mad, because Amulet Coin doubles all the money you get from any battle or any drop or anything. This should be fucking number one. I don't care. There is no better casual item than Amulet Coin. Doubling all of the money you get. This is literally infinite money glitch in the game. And it's ranked number 19. And it's ranked next to fucking Bright Powder. If you're a casual, you should be fucking pissed right now. Moving on to Cleanse Tank. The reason why this is such a fundamentally stupid list is that you're ranking all of its use cases, including PvE and PvP. This is like it says, it's a completely useless item in PvP, and it reduces the encounter rate for wild Pokemon. This is not better than Amulet Coin. And I would say if you're ranking it on a nuanced list, it's not even better than something like Focus Sash, because you could use it in all formats, and it's still a useful item no matter what. This is useful only in PvE, completely useless in PvP, and it's fundamentally not as important as an item. It's just stupid. Destiny Knot I'm not going to get into, because breeding is something I don't want to even fucking talk about. Eject Button, once again, I want to mention that Eject Button is higher than Focus Sash, Amulet Coin, and all the berries, Air Balloon, Toxic Orb, Booster Energy. I just want to mention that, once again, this is higher than all of those. Now, Eject Button, what happens is when you get hit, you switch out. There are some cases where having Eject Button is useful, but there are some cases where you're like, okay, I want to be in now. But then your opponent is faster and they hit you with a move, and fuck you, you're out, goodbye. Goodbye, you got Eject Buttoned. This is an item that, once again, is not very useful in PvE, so fundamentally this list is flawed, once again. But then in PvP, it's a double-sided, or fucking, what's it called? Double-edged blade. Like, it's just stupid. I'm struggling to find the words. Like, my camera's not on right now, but I'm like flailing my hands around, like in like disbelief. I'm not gonna lie. I forgot they put Iron Ball on the list. Oh my god. Okay. Once again. I want to remind you, I'm not going to go through the list again, but I want to remind you that this is above all the other items. Here's the thing with Iron Ball. What it's saying is that Iron Ball, it can ground you, it can ground flying types, which is cool, I guess. Or levitators, it can ground them. And it has their attack speed, which is cool, right? It's cool. That's a nice item. So what can happen is you can hold it, and then you can give it to your opponent, and then they are either grounded or have their speed halved. However, you may notice the fundamental flaw, which is you can't have your you can't like DM your opponent and be like, hey, you should run Iron Ball on your Pokemon. Like, to use this item, you have to run it on your own Pokemon. Which means that your Pokemon is either grounded, which is the less interesting of the two, or has their speed halved. Which means that if you're using Switch, Rube, or Trick, if your Pokemon doesn't have Prankster, it means your speed is halved. So it means to use the move, your opponent and not get like hit with an attack, your opponent either has to switch, or like, or you just get hit. So it's just bad. Like, even if you're like, I get that they wanted to include like some trick item, but if you want to use a trick item, this is not the one you want to do. Because if you want to use this, you could just use Lagging Tail, and instead of having the speed, they get negative priority, which is just objectively better. Like, you're taking the opponent's item, but like, one, you have to be running Switcheroo or Trick. Two, you have to be holding this item, which is fundamentally disadvantaging your Pokemon. And three, like, you're getting the opponent's item, which is good because now the opponent doesn't have an item, but whatever the item the opponent has doesn't have to be an item that benefits you as a Pokemon. This is not a good item. It's terrible. The fact that this item was even fucking considered for the list, much less at 15, above 12 other items, above Amulet Coin, is absolutely ridiculous. So moving on, we have Safety Goggles. I'm not going to talk about this too much. This is, I want to say, mostly a doubles one, which is why I'm not going to talk about it, because Spore is used more commonly in there. It has some other niche applications in singles and PvE, but it's mostly a doubles item, which I'm not too qualified to talk about, so I'm just going to move on. And then we have Terrain Extender, which is, like, it's a mid item. It's, like, sort of useful, I guess, but the only reason you would want to have this is if, in the modern day, you don't have the Tapus anymore, so the only Pokemon that's really running this is, like, Rillaboom, I want to say, in the higher tiers. Like, you could sort of give it to Indeedee, and you could sort of give it to, what's the spiky, electric guy? Why can't I remember his name? Whatever his name is, the Electric Surge guy. But the reason why this isn't a great item, and definitely should not be number 11, is it does nothing other than extend your ability. Which, if you're running like a grassy terrain team, or like a electric terrain team, or a psychic terrain team, can be useful. However, the issue with this is that usually on those Pokemon, without another held item, they're not very strong. Except for the spiky guy, Pincurchin, that's his name. Except for Pincurchin, who's like a hazard setter. On Indeedee, if you're not running like a Scarf or a Specs, you really have a very minimal damage output. You're not a very useful Pokemon without a different held item. Sorry. So you're essentially playing like 5-on-6 without having an item on there. And Rillaboom as well would prefer to hold another item. So this is an item where it has advantages, like, but it facilitates a certain team style, which those team styles are typically gimmicky and not very good. I think the only exception was like Psychic Terrain was pretty good in UU a while ago, but I'm not sure if it even is anymore. So it already facilitates a gimmicky playstyle, and aside from facilitating that playstyle, it has basically no other use. So this is a lower end item in my opinion. Moving on to Light Clay. Light Clay is actually a very powerful item, so I have no complaints with it being this high. It extends the turns of your screens, which I may have just harped on Terrain Extender for doing something similar. The issue with screens is that screens are fundamentally a lot more viable because you're not limited in type or ability. You can just go in, throw up your screen, switch out, and then it facilitates hyper offense. So it's facilitating a much more valuable team style. And honestly, that's kind of the only reason it's, in my opinion, so much better than Terrain Extender. I think the reason that they're this close on the list is because the author was like, oh, they do kind of similar things, let's just throw them in together. But no, do not get them twisted. And we're actually going to see that with the next one, that we can't ignore nuances. Remember when I said the GameRant developer doesn't have, or the GameRant author doesn't have a very nuanced perspective on competitive or casual play? This is where we're going to see this. Even though these items do similar things, Light Clay is a much better item. And now we're going to talk about choice items, which is one that, once again, if you are the author and you don't have a nuanced perspective of the game, you're just like, oh yeah, they do similar things. Let's just throw them all into one grouping. And no, that's not true. If you wanted to put choice specs and choice band in the same category, that's perfectly fine with me. They do very similar things, and in my opinion, neither of them do anything better than the other. Although I would argue that specs is more powerful, but that's minor. The issue is that Choice Scarf is significantly better than the other two, and it's not even close. In fact, Choice Scarf is probably a top 3 item in the game, in my opinion. I'm not going to spoil what those would be because the other two are coming up soon. However, it's another case where the author just doesn't really know what they're talking about. And that's something that we've talked about a lot over this, like, mini series of me crapping on GameRant, is that, like, sure, like, they do similar things, but they're not the same. They're just not the same. Having a 50% speed boost is significantly better than having the 50% power boost. And it's not even close, to be honest. Yeah, like I said, if you want to put these other down here, I'm okay with that. They're powerful items, but if you want to say other items are better than them, that's perfectly fine. But no, Choice Scarf is miles above, maybe not miles above these two, but definitely above other ones on the list. And now is where I take issue, because Heavy Duty Boots is number 10. Heavy Duty Boots, in terms of competitive, is the single best competitive item in the game. And it's not even close. There was a while in both Generation 8 and Generation 9 where the idea of banning heavy-duty boots was flirted, and almost actually came into effect, but narrowly avoided it. The issue, or what I would assume the reason it's this low, is because it's not particularly useful in casual play. It's the fact that there are some items that are competitive only, that, as we'll see, are higher on this. Oh boy, we're gonna talk about fucking that one. It's like, this is by far the best competitive item, and there are other competitive only items above it. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna try to get too mad about it. Rocky Helmet is a very good item. I'm not gonna complain about Rocky Helmet being this high because it's a very good item. Am I going to complain about Heavy Duty Boots being below it? Yes. Moving on. Lucky Egg, I'm not gonna talk about it because it's PvE only. I guess if you want to say that it's better, sure, that's fine. That's to your own nuance. I'm not going to complain about it. Expert Belt is number 7, which Expert Belt is above Booster Energy, Rocky Helmet, and Heavy Duty Boots. Expert Belt is an item that hasn't been used in competitive play since essentially Generation 5 because it's just not very strong. The issue with Expert Belt, I think, if I remember correctly, False Wipe Gaming made an entire video on this, so you can check that out after this video if you want. But essentially the reason why this isn't very good is because you can get, like, similar and stronger damage boosts by having other held items, and it only boosts the super effective moves. So you could get other moves that have drawbacks but don't have the limitation of super effective moves and have stronger benefits. So essentially, Expert Belt is just worse than Life Orb and worse than Choice items, and you would just rather use other items above it. It's not a bad item, it's just outclassed, so it being this high is not very great. And now we have a move, or a item that should not have even been considered for this list, but for some fucking reason it's number 6. It's the Zoom Lens, baby. That's right, I had to look up what well, I didn't have to look it up, they said it right here, but I had no idea what this item even did before this. But they put it at number 6. So Zoom Lens is a item that increases your attack's accuracy by 20%. That sounds good, right? You have moves like Stone Edge, which have like 80 accuracy, and you know that's pretty good. However, you have to have already used a move on that turn, so it doesn't come into effect until the next turn. I don't think I have to explain why that isn't good. So, essentially what you could do, let's take the move like, okay, they use Thunder, for example. I'm not going to talk about the one that KO moves because they're banned in competitive play and the author should have known this. Let's take Thunder, or let's take Stone Edge. So let's say you miss your first Thunder. That's cool. Then you get the boosted accuracy on the second one, which, okay, now you're more likely to hit it on the second time. You know what you could do instead of that? You could put on a Choice Specs, and you're more than likely to hit one of the 2 Thunders, and then you get a power boost on top of it. Or you could run Heavy Duty Boots, and you could just not get the 30% chance twice, which is pretty unlucky. The issue is that the benefit is just such a nothingness. Like 20% accuracy in theory sounds good, but one, it doesn't even come into effect until the second turn. But then like the benefit you get from it is very limited because I'm not going to try to do the math, but essentially you're more than likely to, if you're using Stone Edge, to not miss 2 in a row, which I'm not saying you can't miss 2 in a row, but you don't really get anything from this. To put it into perspective, I have never in my entire like career of playing competitive Pokemon seen anyone use Zoom Lens. I've used Wide Lens before. You could use Wide Lens. There are some Pokemon that use Wide Lens. In fact, I would say that if you're going to put any accuracy boosting like item on this list, you should put Wide Lens. Because Wide Lens is a fundamentally better Pokemon. Or not a Pokemon, a fundamentally better item. Because it has the 10% increased accuracy, but it does that on the first turn. So instead of having to just pray you hit the first turn and then you have a better chance to hit the second turn, you just have that flat boost to your accuracy, which once again still isn't a very rewarding item. The thing is, with this item, it's like a medium risk, low reward item, because for one, you have a chance that it just doesn't do anything to begin with. Like you would have either just hit those 2 moves to begin with, and in which case it does nothing, or you would have hit the first one, or you would have missed the first one and hit the second one, in which case it does nothing. So it's giving you a better RNG chance, but that's just not a good reward for a held item. You could just get so much better on held items. I'm going to stop ranting about this. Elemental Gems are introduced in here, which I'm just going to bypass because they are only in Generation 5. And if you want to argue that, like, cool, I guess. Gems were very good in Generation 5, but this list has been mainly focusing on Generation 8 and 9. Mostly just 9, so I'm just kind of going to ignore that, but yeah, they're good. Forest Life Orb, sure, that's fine. Life Orb's a good item. I wouldn't say it's better than Choice items. It's definitely not better than Choice Scarf. I wouldn't really say it's better than Specs or Band either, but it's not bad. It's a good item. That's fine. That's okay. Sure. 3 is Citrus Berry. Once again, it's a very low reward item. I have a similar issue with this, with Zoom Lens, although not as much of one. Citrus Berry is good, but it's just like, okay, I guess. This is like a mid-tier item. I don't know why this is number 3. Like, they don't really justify why this is number 3. Like, not only that, I would say it's not even the best berry. Like, if you're considering all the berries, I would say the 30% or the 33, I don't remember which one it is, percent healing berries are just better. So I don't really understand this. Moving on, we're going to talk about the number 2, which is Assault Vest. Why is Assault Vest number 2? I don't know. The world may never know why Assault Vest is number 2. So, once again, Assault Vest is a good item. Should it be number 2? No, not remotely. Not even close. Not by a mile. The issue with Assault Vest is raising your special defense by 50% is like a decent benefit. However, you can't use a status move. The issue with this is that if you're raising your special defense by 50%, it's giving your Pokemon defensive utility. But then, what do defensive Pokemon tend to do? Use status moves, which you can't do. So, who uses this item? It's, like, I'm not saying it's a bad item, there are definitely Pokemon that benefit from it, but the list of Pokemon that benefit from this are really restricted. It's a very small list of Pokemon that actually take advantage of Assault Vest, and that they would rather use Assault Vest over another item. And then again, the reward isn't even that great. It's just a 50% special defense boost. Like, the issue with this is that not being able to use status move is so bad for every type of Pokemon. For defensive Pokemon, obviously you want to use moves like Recover, or like Roost, that heal your HP. Or you want to use moves like Thunder Wave. And then for offensive Pokemon, you want to use moves like Encore to help you set up, or you want to use moves that boost yourself, like Swords Dance, or Nasty Plot, or Calm Mind, or Agility, or Dragon Dance. Or if you're a support Pokemon, you want to use support moves like Thunder Wave, or Spikes, or Stealth Rocks. Those are all status moves. So what archetype of Pokemon benefit the most from Assault Vest? Like the only archetype that really benefits from this are like bruiser Pokemon. And then again, you would still like in that case you would rather use a choice item. So the only archetype I can think that would not want to have an item. No, that's not even true. The archetype I think that would want to have this the most are mixed attackers, and even then they would rather have a life orb. And mixed attackers are already very rare. But it's number 2. Okay. Awesome. The number 1 item is leftovers. That's fine. It's a good item. Sure. I would put boots over it, but I understand that this is everything. Like, I would say that this is a good number 1 because it's good in every format. It's good in PvP and PvE. Man, this list is so fucking bad. Like, at least it has a good number 1, but it's such a bad list. Like, I'm depressed after reading this, man. Like, I'm just sad. Anyway, make sure to smash that like button. Leave down in the comments below. Fucking give me money. Give me money, channel members. Have a good day, I guess.